Hello, story lovers. Tonight we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat. Comment below where you're watching from. And if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone who loves a powerful love story, and tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Nathan Cross's penthouse office like bullets against armor. At 32, he commanded an empire that stretched across Silicon Valley. But tonight, the weight of his billions felt more like chains than freedom. The amber glow of his desk lamp cast sharp shadows across his face as he stared at the phone in his trembling hands. One call. That's all it would take to destroy everything he'd built. His fingers found the familiar contact, and before he could stop himself, he pressed dial. Nathan. Olivia Chen's voice cut through the static of his panic. It's past midnight. Wrong. He could picture her in her small apartment above her wedding planning boutique, probably surrounded by fabric samples and sketches. The same Olivia who'd known him before the money, before the fame, before he'd learned to weaponize his smile. I need a favor. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the storm outside and the thundering of his heart. What kind of favor? Her voice carried that familiar note of caution, the same tone she'd used when they were kids, and he'd suggested climbing the old water tower. Nathan closed his eyes, knowing he was about to cross a line they could never uncross. I need you to marry me. The phone slipped from Olivia's grasp, clattering against her hardwood floor. When she picked it up again, her voice was barely a whisper. Nathan, what the hell is going on? The all-night diner smelled of grease and desperation, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry wasps. Olivia sat across from Nathan in a cracked vinyl booth, her dark eyes searching his face for answers he wasn't ready to give. My father's will, Nathan said, his coffee growing cold between his hands. There's a clause I never told you about. If I'm not married by my 33rd birthday, everything goes to charity. That's in 3 months. 2 months and 16 days. Olivia's voice was flat, emotionless. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. So you call me at midnight like I'm some kind of emergency contact for your love life. Nathan flinched at the venom in her words. Liv, you know it's not like that. Do I? She leaned forward and he could see the hurt bleeding through her anger. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like the great Nathan Cross finally found something his money can't buy. So he's asking his childhood friend to prostitute herself for his convenience. The word hit him like a physical blow. Don't say that. Why not? It's true, isn't it? Her hands trembled as she reached for her purse. I should leave. My mother is dying. The word stopped her cold. Olivia's hand froze on her purse strap, her brown eyes widening with shock. The experimental treatment in Switzerland, Nathan continued, his voice breaking. Insurance won't cover it. I need the inheritance, Liv. Not for me. Olivia sank back into the booth, the fight draining out of her like air from a punctured balloon. Nathan, why didn't you just tell me? Because I'm selfish. He met her eyes, and she saw the boy she'd known, scared and vulnerable beneath the billionaire's mask. Because part of me wants this. Part of me has always wanted this. The confession hung between them like a live wire, sparking with dangerous possibility. 6 weeks later, Olivia stood in the antique mirror of the courthouse's bridal suite, her reflection fractured into 1,000 pieces. The simple white dress felt like a costume, beautiful and foreign against her skin. Her hand shook as she tried to fasten the pearl necklace Nathan had given her that morning. It was my mother's, he'd said, his fingers gentle against her neck as he'd helped with the clasp. She wanted you to have it. The door opened and Nathan appeared behind her in the mirror. His black suit was perfectly tailored, but his eyes held the same haunted look she'd seen that night in the diner. You look beautiful, he said softly. Don't. The word came out sharper than she intended. Don't make this more than it is. And what is it, Liv? She turned to face him, her heart hammering against her ribs. A transaction. That's what you said, remember? 6 months of marriage, then we file for divorce. You get your inheritance, I get my business loan repaid, and we both walk away. Is that what you want? He stepped closer, and she could smell his cologne, cedar, and rain. To walk away. The air between them crackled with everything unsaid. Olivia opened her mouth to answer when the door burst open. A woman stood in the doorway, breathtaking in a red dress that clung to her like sin. Her blonde hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her green eyes locked onto Nathan with predatory focus. "Surprised to see me, darling?" Her smile was razor-sharp. Nathan's face went ashen. "Victoria, you didn't think I'd miss your wedding, did you?" Victoria's gaze slid to Olivia, assessing and dismissive in the same breath. "Especially when the groom is supposed to be marrying me." Olivia felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "What is she talking about?" "Nathan and I have been engaged for 8 months, Victoria said, pulling a diamond ring from her purse and sliding it onto her finger. "Tell her, Nathan. Tell your little friend about the real arrangement. Get out." Nathan's voice was steel. "Oh, I don't think so." Victoria pulled out her phone, swiping through photos. "I have quite the collection here. You at my penthouse. Us in Monaco. The contract you signed promising me half of everything once you secured the inheritance." She looked at Olivia with mock sympathy. "Did he tell you about that, sweetheart? Or did he just feed you some sob story about his dying mother?" Olivia's blood ran cold. "Nathan, tell me she's lying." The silence that followed was deafening. "It's not what you think," Nathan finally said, his voice hollow. "Then what is it?" Olivia ripped the pearl necklace from her throat, pearls scattering across the floor like tears. "What the hell is it, Nathan?" 3 hours later, Olivia sat on a park bench in the rain, still wearing her wedding dress. The mascara had long since run down her cheeks, but she didn't care. Her phone buzzed for the 50th time. "Nathan, again," she finally answered. "What could you possibly say?" "Victoria's lying. Half of what she said is a lie." His voice was ragged, desperate. "Meet me, let me explain. Why should I believe anything you say?" "Because I love you." The words hit her like a gunshot. "I've loved you since we were 17, and you punched Tommy Morrison for calling me a sellout. I've loved you through every girlfriend, every business deal, every moment I tried to convince myself I didn't." Olivia closed her eyes against the pain. "You have a sick way of showing it. I was engaged to Victoria. That part's true." She could hear him moving, pacing probably. "It was a business arrangement. Her father's company needed a merger. I needed someone to satisfy my father's will. No love, no feelings, just a contract. But then I saw you again at that charity gala 6 months ago, and I remembered what I'd been running from all these years. So you used me instead." "No. Yes. God. Liv, I broke it off with Victoria 2 months before I called you. I paid her off, signed away half my shares in her father's company, everything. The contract she showed you? It's void. I have the dissolution papers from my lawyers. She's here for revenge because I chose you." Olivia wanted to believe him. Every cell in her body ached to believe him. "Prove it." "The wedding's still scheduled for 4 p.m. If you come, if you marry me, I'll sign over half the inheritance to you right now. No divorce clause, no conditions. You'll have complete control. If I'm lying, if I betray you, you can destroy me." That's insane. That's trust, Liv. That's what you do when you love someone. His voice broke. "I'm asking you to take a leap of faith with me." One more time, like the water tower. She remembered that day. They'd been 13. She'd been terrified, but Nathan had held her hand the entire climb up. At the top, with the whole town spread beneath them, he'd said, "See? We can do anything together." "I need something from you first," Olivia said, her decision crystallizing like ice. "Your mother. I want to meet her. Right now." The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and fading hope. Nathan's mother, Margaret Cross, looked impossibly small in the white bed, her once vibrant eyes now dim with illness. But when she saw Olivia, something sparked in their depths. "Little Liv," she whispered, reaching out a trembling hand. "He finally told you." Olivia took her hand, its weightlessness heartbreaking. "Told me what?" "That he's been in love with you for half his life." Margaret smiled weakly. "I told him months ago to stop being a coward, to tell you before I'm gone." "Mom, don't," Nathan said from the doorway. "Hush. I'm dying. I get to say what I want." Margaret squeezed Olivia's hand. "He made mistakes. He's his father's son in business, but his heart, that's all mine. And that heart belongs to you, sweetheart. It always has. Tears streamed down Olivia's face. Why didn't he just tell me? Because he's terrified. Terrified of losing you. Terrified that you'll see him the way the rest of the world does, as just another rich boy using people. Margaret's eyes found her son. But you're not, are you, baby? Tell her. Tell her the real reason you need the inheritance. Nathan's composure finally shattered. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands. The treatment cost $3 million. But the will states I can't access the inheritance until I'm married and only for personal use, not medical expenses. So I need to inherit it, then liquidate enough assets to make it look like personal funds. It's the only way insurance won't red flag the payment as inheritance money and deny the claim. But there's more, Margaret said, her voice fading. Tell her the rest, Nathan. Your boutique, Nathan whispered. It's failing, Liv. I've seen the bills on your desk when I visit. You're 3 months from bankruptcy. The business loan I mentioned? It's not repayment. It's a cover. I was going to give you half the inheritance outright, tell you it was from the divorce settlement, so you'd accept it without your pride getting in the way. Olivia felt like she'd been punched in the gut. You investigated my finances? I care about you. Nathan looked up, his eyes red. You're drowning and too stubborn to ask for help. Just like me. Margaret coughed, a wet, rattling sound. You're both idiots. Two people desperately in love. Drowning separately when you could swim together. Her eyes closed. Now get married before I die without seeing you two stop being fools. A nurse rushed in, checking monitors. She needs to rest. Outside the hospital room, Olivia turned to Nathan. The hallway's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, making him look older, more vulnerable. I don't know if I can trust you, she said quietly, but I know I can't let your mother die without trying. So you'll marry me? I'll marry you. For her, for 6 months. Like we agreed. She met his eyes, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. But after that, Nathan Cross, you're going to have to earn every single piece of my heart you think you own. The clock on the wall read 3:47 p.m. They had 13 minutes to get to the courthouse. 5 months later, autumn painted the city in shades of gold and rust. Olivia stood in the penthouse that had become her prison and her sanctuary, staring at the divorce papers on Nathan's desk. Everything had changed. Margaret had survived the treatment. She was in remission, laughing and cooking Sunday dinners again, constantly asking when she'd get grandchildren. The inheritance had come through. Olivia's boutique was not only saved but thriving, with a waitlist of clients stretching into next year, and Nathan had kept his promise. Every single day for 5 months, he'd courted her like they were strangers falling in love for the first time. Morning coffee with notes that made her laugh. Flowers that weren't roses because he knew she found them cliché. Late-night conversations on the balcony where he'd shared pieces of himself he'd hidden from the world. She'd felt her walls crumbling, brick by brick. But she'd also found something else. A folder on his computer, left carelessly open. A background check on her dated 2 years ago, before the gala. Before any of this started, he'd been watching her for years. The door opened. Nathan walked in, his tie loose, jacket over his shoulder. He stopped when he saw her standing at his desk. You found it, he said quietly. Were you ever going to tell me? Her voice was eerily calm. Yes. Tonight, actually. He set down his jacket, his movements careful. That's why I came home early. 2 years, Nathan. You've been tracking me for 2 years. Tracking is a strong word. What would you call it? He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she'd learned meant he was struggling. Insurance, protection, making sure you were okay. That's obsession. She held up the folder. You knew about my finances, my failed relationships, my mother's grave, how often I visited. You knew everything. And you let me think this was fate bringing us back together. It was fate. He stepped closer. Liv, I saw you at that gala and it destroyed me. You looked so beautiful and so sad. And I realized I'd wasted years pretending I didn't need you. The investigation started after that night because I wanted to understand what had happened to us. To you. You wanted control. I wanted to protect you. His composure cracked. You were struggling and I had the power to help, but I knew you'd never accept it from me. Not directly. So yes, I manipulated the situation. I created circumstances where you'd have to let me in. Olivia felt tears burning behind her eyes. You took away my choice. I know. He sank into a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Liv. I thought if I could just get close to you again, prove that we belong together, the methods wouldn't matter. But they do. They matter because they hurt you. She looked at the divorce papers, then at the man she'd fallen in love with despite her best efforts. I found something else in that folder. Letters. Ones you never sent. Nathan's head snapped up. 17 letters over 10 years. Her voice shook. Telling me about your life, asking about mine, apologizing for losing touch. She pulled one from her pocket, unfolding it. This one's from 5 years ago. Dear Liv, I saw a wedding today and thought of you. Not because I wanted to marry the bride, but because I remembered you at 13, telling me you'd never wear white because it stains too easily. You were always practical like that, always seeing the truth of things while I got lost in dreams. I miss your truth. I miss you. A tear rolled down Nathan's cheek. I was drunk when I wrote that one. You were honest. She set the letter on the desk. That's what kills me, Nathan. You've been honest in private for a decade, but you couldn't be honest with me in person. Because I was terrified. He stood, his voice raw. Terrified that if you knew how much space you occupied in my head, in my heart, you'd run. So I built this elaborate plan where I could be close to you under the guise of necessity, where I could pretend my feelings were just a side effect of proximity rather than the reason for everything. And Victoria was a mistake, a stupid attempt to make myself feel something for anyone else. He laughed bitterly. It didn't work. Nothing worked. You're it for me, Liv. You always have been. Olivia picked up the divorce papers, her hands trembling. I should sign these, walk away. Let us both find something healthier. You should, Nathan agreed, his voice hollow. I've given you every reason to, but... She looked up at him. But I'm asking you not to. He crossed the distance between them, stopping just short of touching her. I'm asking you to stay. Not for 6 months. Not for the inheritance or the boutique or any logical reason. Stay because somewhere in this mess we found something real. Something worth fighting for. You manipulated me. I did. You lied. I did. You've been obsessed with me for a decade. Completely. She should sign the papers. She should walk away. But her hand went to her neck instead, touching the pearl necklace she'd never taken off. After he'd collected each pearl from the courthouse floor and had it restrung. I'm not signing them today, she finally said. Hope flickered in Nathan's eyes. No, but I'm not staying as your wife either. Not yet. She set the papers aside. We're going to do this right, Nathan Cross. We're going to date. Actually date. No contracts, no arrangements, no manipulation. You're going to court me honestly. And I'm going to decide honestly if this broken, messy thing between us can become something beautiful. And if it can't, then we sign the papers. She met his eyes, seeing the fear and hope warring there. But if it can, if we can build something real from all these lies and half-truths and desperate choices, then maybe we'll have something stronger than what we would have had if we'd done it the right way. Nathan reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers intertwined with hers. I don't deserve you. No, you don't. She squeezed his hand. But neither of us deserves to spend our lives wondering what if. So we're going to find out. Together. Honestly. Starting when? She smiled, and it was the first real smile she'd given him since the wedding. Starting with you taking me to dinner. Somewhere cheap where we can't hide behind expensive wine and fancy food. Somewhere we have to actually talk. The diner? The diner. 6 months later, Olivia stood in a real church wearing a real wedding dress, surrounded by real guests who were there because they loved them, not because they were obligated. Margaret sat in the front row, healthy and beaming. Nathan waited at the altar, his eyes locked on hers as she walked down the aisle. No more secrets, no more lies. Just two scarred people who'd chosen to heal together rather than bleed alone. When the minister asked if they took each other, Olivia's answer was steady and sure. I do. Nathan's voice was thick with emotion. I do. As they kissed, Olivia felt the weight of the past year fall away. They'd survive. They'd stumble and fall and hurt each other again because that's what people do. But they'd also love fiercely and honestly, and with the kind of passion that comes from almost losing everything. Outside the church, as autumn leaves swirled around them and cameras flashed, Nathan whispered in her ear, "Thank you for taking the leap with me." Olivia squeezed his hand, thinking of a water tower and two kids who'd believed they could do anything together. "Always," she whispered back. "We can do anything together." And for the first time in a decade, she knew it was true. The end.